Welcome to the Savage Soul Rules tutorial. This series is designed to provide you the basics of the game. The Savage Soul is not like any other role-playing game out there. It doesn't involve rolling 20-sided dice. There's no rolling for initiative. There's no rolling for damage or reducing hit points. In fact, there are no hit points at all. As a result, there is a bit of a learning curve, but as fans of the Savage Soul will attest, the learning curve is well worth it. This series will be broken into 8 separate parts. Hopefully each will be fairly short. So without any further ado, let's get into it. The Savage Soul is largely based upon the concept of task attempts. There are actually 3 different kinds of task attempts: ordinary tasks, professional tasks, and competing tasks. An ordinary task is when the character is simply attempting to do something and it doesn't require any special training or ability, and there is no one competing against the character. In this example, Angela Evermore, the winged huntress, shoots an arrow into the leaf-covered ground of the autumn woods, and she then goes into the woods to try to find her missing arrow. The first thing the game master needs to do is to decide how difficult it would be for an ordinary person to accomplish the task. Not a person with Angela Evermore's special skills or special attributes necessarily, but an ordinary person. And the GM, thinking that it would be rather difficult to find an arrow buried under the leaf-covered forest floor, decides that it would be a more challenging task. In other words, it would fall somewhere between a challenging task and a difficult task. So, as a more challenging task, the GM assigns a difficulty factor of 12. This task is based on perception. So in determining her attempt bonus, Angela Evermore is first going to add her perception attribute, which in this case is 6. She'll then modify the attribute by whatever modifiers are appropriate. In this case, Angela Evermore has the peculiarity Hunter, which applies a +2 bonus to perception attempts related to hunting. And for this task attempt, the GM determines that finding a lost arrow is sufficiently related to hunting. So, Angela can increase her attempt bonus from 6 to 8. Now, the GM could also apply miscellaneous modifiers. If it was nighttime, for example, the GM might apply a negative modifier of anywhere between 1 and 3. But in this case, we'll assume it's broad daylight, and the GM is not going to apply any negative modifiers. So, Angela Evermore's attempt bonus for her perception task attempt to find her arrow is a total of +8. In this example, Angela's D10 roll was a 2. Adding her attempt bonus of +8 to the die result of 2, Angela has an attempt total of 10. She needed a 12, so her attempt failed, and she has a failure margin of 2. But replaying it, let's assume Angela rolled better. This time, her roll is an 8, for a total of 16. This time, Angela succeeds at finding her arrow with a success margin of 4. Because her attempt total is 16, the difficulty factor was 12, and the difference between the two is 4, so her success margin is 4. This means Angela found her arrow. In this example, success margin really didn't make much of a difference, because all Angela needed to do on this task was succeed. But let's imagine Angela had actually shot 10 arrows into the autumn woods, and the GM advises that she will be able to find 2 of her arrows for each point of success margin. In that case, with an attempt total of 16 and a success margin of 4, Angela would have been able to find 8 of her 10 arrows, and the other 2 would remain missing. So that's an example of an ordinary task. Angela's not competing against anyone, she's just attempting to do something. The next type of task attempt is a professional task. A professional task requires that the character have some sort of specialized experience or training to even be able to attempt the task. So, for example, in a recent battle, Caro, this character, was wounded, increasing his injury condition to injured, and Stephanie, this character, wants to see if she can heal him using the basic medical procedure called ambulatory care. If Stephanie didn't have any levels of the medical doctor peculiarity, she would be unable even to attempt ambulatory care on Caro, because ambulatory care requires a minimum medical doctor level of 1. For this example, let's assume that Stephanie does have at least 1 level in medical doctor. In that case, she would be able to attempt the task, using her craft attribute, at a difficulty factor of 9, which is specified on the table. Stephanie's craft is only 5, so she would need to roll a 4 or better to successfully perform ambulatory care on Caro. She rolls a 5 and is successful, reducing Caro's injury condition from injured to barely injured. And these different injury conditions will all be explained in the tutorial regarding damage. But Stephanie, with her craft of 5, was able to perform this professional task only because she had level 1 or higher in the medical doctor peculiarity. Even if Stephanie had a craft attribute of 10, she wouldn't have been able to attempt this task if she didn't have at least 1 level in medical doctor. Common uses of professional tasks are things like lockpicking, computer hacking, medical doctor, and spellcasting. The final type of task attempt is a competing task, which represents 2 or more characters making task attempts and then comparing their attempt totals to determine which of them prevails at the competing task. More often than not, competing tasks involve separate attributes. So, in this example, Ligerius, this character, is attempting to sneak past these 4 enemy thuggers. Ligerius is going to use his stealth attribute. At the same time, the thuggers are going to use their perception attribute. Now, the GM could apply various modifiers to 1 or more of these attempt bonuses. For example, if Ligerius has the sneak peculiarity, he would be able to increase his attempt bonus by +2. Similarly, if it was nighttime, the GM might apply a modifier of anywhere between -1 and -3 to this group of thuggers. But in this case, Ligerius does not have the sneak peculiarity, or anything similar, and it's broad daylight, so the thuggers are not subject to any sort of penalty. One bonus that will apply to the thuggers is a concept called assistance, and in this case, because there are 4 thuggers, 1 thugger will make the perception attempt, but because he has 3 assistants, he gets a bonus of +2 to his perception attempt. So Ligerius makes his stealth attempt and rolls a 2, for an attempt total of 7. The GM determines that this particular thugger will make the perception attempt for the thuggers, and, as noted, he gets a +2 because of the 3 assistants. So his total perception attempt bonus is +7, and he rolls a 2 for an attempt total of 9. Because the thuggers' attempt total exceeded Ligerius's attempt total, the thuggers detect Ligerius in his attempt to sneak past them, and combat will very likely ensue. One other important concept, while we're on the topic of core mechanics, is the mechanic for applying natural 10s and natural 1s on task attempts. We'll focus first on natural 10s. If a character rolls a 10 on his D10, he has an option of reducing the attempt total by 5 and then adding another D10. So, for example, if a character had a bonus of +7 and the roll of his D10 was a natural 10, he would have an option. He could either keep his attempt total of 17 or reduce his bonus to 12 and roll another D10. In this case, if the character were to choose to do that, his second D10 result would be a 6. Added to his new bonus of 12 would be a total of 18. But it is a risk. It may also have happened that his second roll was a 1, in which case he would have reduced his attempt total from 17 to only 13, which can be a big difference. This option continues to apply so long as the character continues to roll 10s. So it is true in the Savage Soul that no matter how difficult the attempt may be, there's always a chance that a character will succeed. The opposite of the natural 10 rule is the natural 1 rule. If a character rolls a natural 1 on his d10, he must reduce his attempt total by 5 and add a d5. So for example, let's assume that a character has an attempt bonus of +7 and he rolls a natural 1 on his d10. The character's attempt total would have been 8, but because of the natural 1 rule, the character must reduce his attempt total to a new attempt bonus of +3, which is 8 minus 5, and then add the result of a d5. If the character rolls perfectly and gets a 5 on his d5, then the attempt total will stay the same. But more often than not, the character's attempt total will go down. And it could go down to less than the character's attempt bonus. Additionally, if the character rolls a 1 on his d5, it is automatically a critical failure, which could have additional consequences. As a result, as is true with the natural 10 rule that allows any character a chance to succeed at a task, the natural 1 rule provides a chance for any character to fail at a task, provided the GM determines that it's possible to fail at the task. If it's not possible to fail at a task, the GM should not require the character to roll. And to the same extent, if it's not possible to succeed at a task, the GM should not afford the character an opportunity to roll. So, those are the basic core mechanics. The next video will discuss the order of a combat round in the Savage Soul. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please stay tuned for the next tutorial.